The deadliest man-eaters to ever exist didn't hunt on the open plains. They waited for the sun to drop. What follows is the verified countdown of the top 8 deadliest individual predators in documented human history. Number 8. 35 kills, the Lions of Tsavo. How does a cracked tooth shut down a heavily fortified railway empire? In 1898, a disease eradicated 90% of the Tsavo River buffalo population. Facing starvation, 2 male lions infiltrated a human environment, a heavily fortified railway construction camp. The workers built dense, interlocking thorn fences called bomas. Instead of trying to leap over these barriers, the pair systematically dismantled the sharp thorn structures from the base. They dragged screaming victims directly underneath the defensive line into the black savanna. The legend stated they were supernatural demons hunting for psychological dominance. The forensic reality is a tragic injury. Bone pathology revealed the dominant killer suffered a fractured lower canine and a massive root abscess. He could no longer bite down hard enough to suffocate a struggling buffalo. The human throat simply required far less force. This allowed the injured lion to crush a neck without triggering blinding pain in its shattered tooth. A localized dental injury dismantled a railway. What happens when an injured predator decides to bypass human barricades entirely and drop in from above? Number 7. 42 kills, the Spotted Devil of Gumalapur. How do you survive a killer that uses your own roof against you? In 1940, the rural communities of Tamil Nadu were paralyzed by a shadow that refused to respect their barricades. 42 people vanished into the dark. Families locked their doors at sunset. They endured severe sanitary crises because stepping outside was an absolute death sentence. It didn't matter. The leopard bypassed their defenses completely. It scaled the outer walls and deliberately caved in the fragile thatched roofs from above, dropping directly into windowless sleeping quarters. While the victims lay blind in absolute darkness, the predator mapped the room perfectly. It claimed its targets before they even registered the threat. The nightmare was finally ended in the dead of night by tracker Kenneth Anderson, whose terrified dog froze in panic moments before the leopard struck. Post-mortem inspection revealed old calcified porcupine quills embedded deep in the cat's paws. It wasn't a demon. It was a crippled hunter, forced to target the softest prey available. A crippled paw forced a solitary leopard through human roofs. But long before we reach the absolute apex of this list, a single animal that claimed over 400 lives, we have to look at what happens when man-eating becomes an inherited curriculum. Number 6. 64 kills, the Tigers of Chowgarh. How does an injured mother rewrite the hunting instincts of her cub? In the dense, mountainous forests of Kumaon, a senior female Bengal tiger suffered severe tooth wear and broken claws. Unable to take down fast-moving deer, she ensured her lineage survived by doing the unthinkable. She taught her cub to hunt bipeds. Operating together across a massive 1,500 square kilometer territory, they turned the woods into an execution ground. One tiger would snap a branch or rustle the brush. This forced human wood gatherers to turn and fixate on the noise. In that moment of distraction, the second animal executed a silent flank attack from the blind spot. They never struck the same village twice in a row, keeping the entire region in a state of rolling panic. Jim Corbett finally tracked them down on his third expedition, stepping into the brush only to find the mother waiting silently, just 8 feet away. The Chowgarh tigers utilized the dense cover of the forest to mask their approach. But the next predator on our list doesn't need trees. It tracks its targets through pitch-black water without making a single sound. Number 5. 80 kills, Osama of Uganda. How do you survive a monster that strikes from directly beneath your boat? When commercial fishing operations stripped Lake Victoria of its native wildlife, a massive crocodile was forced into starvation. To survive this human-driven ecological collapse, the reptile turned to the surface. In absolute darkness, it utilized microscopic receptors along its jaw to feel the exact vibration of human oars pulling through the lake. The crocodile waited on the lakebed for days without making a sound or stirring the mud. The instant a wooden vessel passed overhead, it fired its massive tail, breaching upward to violently capsize the boat. Once a target hit the water, the outcome was absolute. A jaw built to crush buffalo bones easily tore through fragile human limbs. A localized nightmare on the water is terrifying. But what happens when a global human pandemic permanently alters the habits of an agile, silent assassin? Number 4. 125 kills. The Leopard of Rudraprayag. How does a sudden surplus of human remains change a predator's mind? In 1918, a global influenza outbreak saturated the Garhwal Himalayas with uncremated casualties. For a local leopard, this sudden, tragic abundance of easy prey permanently shifted its focus. When the sickness subsided, the animal did not revert to hunting wild deer. Its attention was permanently fixed on living humans. Bypassing the instinctual fear of human architecture, this predator specialized in forcing open latched wooden doors. Its thick paws allowed it to move across wooden floorboards in absolute silence. Operating in near-total darkness, it slipped through occupied bedrooms like a ghost, delivering a lethal bite to the throat before the victim could even wake up. A single shadow infiltrating a quiet house is a psychological terror, but long before we reach the absolute apex of this list, we have to look at an industrial production line being systematically dismantled by a coordinated pair of starving titans. A single shadow infiltrating a quiet house is a psychological terror. But what happens when a predator grows so massively that stealth is no longer an option and sheer armor becomes the key to survival? Number 3. 300 kills. Gustave of Burundi. How does a one-ton reptile maintain its calorie count in a collapsing ecosystem? Maintaining a massive body in an unstable river ecosystem is nearly impossible. Approaching 1,000 kilograms and 6 meters in length, Gustave's daily hunger could no longer be satisfied by chasing agile fish. He outgrew his environment. Leaving standard diets behind, he specialized in massive targets. He took down adult hippopotamuses and humans wading in the muddy waters of the Ruzizi River. When his jaws closed, his one-ton weight completely overpowered any human attempt to escape. A body immersed in water cannot anchor itself. Gustave dragged targets into deep channels where fighting back was useless. Locals called him a demon because carcasses were often left uneaten. The reality is purely physical. His stomach simply reached capacity, requiring days to slowly digest dense tissue. He was forced to kill territorial intruders and leave them behind. Operating like a prehistoric submarine, his thick armored scales bear the permanent, scarred dents of AK-47 fire. Gustave is an apex of brute force. But sometimes absolute dominance doesn't come from massive size. It comes from mastering gravity and striking from above. Number 2. 400 kills. The Panar Leopard. How does a solitary predator achieve absolute dominance from above? With 400 fatalities, the Panar Leopard holds the second highest verifiably documented human kill count in history. When an initial supply of cholera epidemic corpses dried up, the leopard did not starve. It adapted. To survive in a sector containing larger, competing tigers, this smaller cat abandoned wide territorial patrols. It compressed its spatial memory into a tight, hyper-localized hunting cycle around narrow human trade routes. Unlike predators that hunt on the ground, it used the trees. It launched silent downward strikes from overhanging canopy branches. A human walking through dense, steep terrain naturally tilts their head forward, exposing the base of the skull. A pounce from 3 meters up turns a heavy predator into a crushing weight that instantly snaps the human neck. It struck during twilight, transforming mountain pathways into vertical kill zones. Gravity and stealth govern the canopy. But the deadliest individual predator in recorded history did not rely on deep water or the cover of trees. She was a single, injured animal, hunting in broad daylight. Number 1. 436 kills. The Champawat Tiger. How does a poacher's bullet lead to 436 human deaths? In 1900, a solitary female Bengal tiger suffered a catastrophic injury. A bullet shattered both her upper and lower right teeth. In a harsh ecosystem, a predator without the bite force to secure large, struggling prey faces immediate starvation. She was forced to abandon wild game and turn to the softest, most fragile targets available. She abandoned nocturnal stealth entirely. Instead, she executed terrifying daylight charges directly into active agricultural fields, dragging victims into the brush before any defense could be mounted. She didn't even need teeth to initiate the kill. A single, heavy paw strike to the human skull delivered enough force to instantly snap the neck. To evade the military hunting parties tracking her, she maintained an unprecedented 30-kilometer nightly patrol through steep alpine terrain. This kept her pursuers permanently exhausted and out of position. With 436 verifiably recorded fatalities, the deadliest individual predator in human history was not a bloodthirsty anomaly. She was a broken animal, desperately trying to survive the direct consequences of a human bullet.